Well, we're into the second week of Russia's air campaign inside Syria, and now the Russian government is finally spelling out what its real strategy is. Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, giving an interview to state television over the weekend, talking about the aim of the Russian forces in Syria is to stabilise what he called the legitimate authority in Syria. He's talking about the government of Bashar al-Assad, Russia's long-standing ally in that country. He wants to create the conditions for political compromise. That was the other message that came out of this interview. And so clearly what's going on is that the Russians are trying as much as possible to neutralise the rebel groups who pose the biggest threat to Bashar al-Assad, and they're mainly non-ISIS groups at this stage, in order to strengthen the Syrian government's hand, so that if there is a peace negotiation in the future, or when there is a peace negotiation in the future, the government's hand will be better played. It means that they can protect Russia's considerable interests in Syria more effectively. And it does have quite wide interest there. It has military installations, has a naval base at Tartus, there's economic ties worth billions of dollars as well, and it doesn't want to see those lost. And so that's one of the reasons why it's giving the Syrian government so much backing. There have been other meetings on the sidelines of this main event, this Syrian war as well. Over the weekend, Vladimir Putin met with the Saudi defence minister. They're both on opposite sides of the conflict in Syria. Of course, the Saudis are supporting some of the rebel groups, and the Russians are supporting Bashar al-Assad, and they're rivals in other spheres as well, like over the issue of the oil price. And so those two people obviously had a great deal to discuss. They said they had a constructive round of discussions, but nothing specific coming out on what can be done. But it's interesting that Russia is meeting with all of the sides, or trying to meet with as many of the sides as possible in this Syrian conflict as it can, clearly trying to achieve its aim of sparking a political process in which the Syrian government has a strong hand to bring an end to the fighting in that country.
Hey, Shalom. Double honors to the apostles of GMS. Honors you brothers that be pushing this truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Alright? And pretty much, man, right, I'm going to do a video based on what's happening out there. And this one's going to be real short. Alright, I'm just going to go into a few documents. But there's a key sort of factor that that I had, I personally wasn't aware of, and I don't know if you brothers were aware of it, but I certainly hadn't dwelled into the understanding of what what possibilities could actually happen out there within Syria. Okay, so I found this information out. This guy does pretty good videos. He calls himself We Are Change. All right, and this is the video I was watching. All right, and it's entitled "Israeli Warplanes Bomb Syria and Threaten War with Russia." All right, and pretty much what you're gonna see here, these articles, I've just taken some out of there, right, just to prove the points and get into the information and make simple of the information that is presented. But essentially, you got this wild dog, which is Israel, and Israel has been ever reputed as being sort of a game changer in any war scenario. In that, when you had the situation with Iran and their nuclear war program, Israel was the one that was saying we're gonna bomb him, all right, until America, which are all playing for the same team, until America intervened. So what they could do, man, is use that wild card, which is Israel, and it's been said multiple times that Israel's really just a military presence in the Middle East of the United States. Okay, and as we've seen so far, and thus far, we've seen that. You got a whole continent, a whole country, right, out of a country, in that you got Israel as a country that was spawned out of America, okay, to be a military presence within the Middle East. But it all goes back to what Pike said, right, which is, Albert Pike, in that they was gonna create and feed off of the differences that the so-called Israeli world, which is the Garites, and the Muslim world, which is differences that we're gonna have. But all of those all stem back onto them same demons, man. Okay, so you can see how these elites work. They tug at both sides of the string, All right, and the people, the sheeple that are in between, they're the ones that really foot the cost for what's really happening out there. But then rightfully they should do, because one, they wouldn't been up the elect, and if they're up the heathen, they're just gonna be two-time losers, man. All right, so he points to the fact that, as you're gonna see in this article here, you got the Israelis there pretty much bombing the hell out of the Syrians too, as well as France, which is gonna be doing the same thing now, as well as as well as is the EU, because the EU said they're gonna have a united front against ISIS, and so on and so forth. But what you have to what you have to understand is Russia is also bombing the real ISIS targets, quote unquote. All right, because you got to, when have you ever seen Russia and the EU and Israel working all together, fighting for the same thing? Well, the American and Israel, and all of that is pretty much trying to defend. They're trying to defend their assets and take Assad out of power. And as you saw the clip, what Putin's trying to do is trying to keep Assad in power. All right. So one could actually assume, right, and rightfully assume, that there's an actual war being played out there, right, within America. Now we're not America, sorry, within Syria. Now when you watch this video, man, this video that I took the information from, he goes into the fact that you had it to where Russia and Israel pretty much had a small altercation over airspace, right, where you had their so-called fighter jets in that, right? There's Israeli fighter jets were in a restricted area, and the Russian air jets were in the same area, and they were basically telling them gutter rats, as you would do to them gutter rats, to flee, man, to go away. All right, so you're getting this tension brewing, but like I said, you got this wild card, right, in Israel, of which plenty of videos have been put up saying that Israel could, them gutter rats is going to probably be the ones, right, like the scripture says, the least of the flock shall draw them out. They're probably going to be the ones that are going to get all of these different countries into war. They're probably going to be the ones that are going to start this thing. All right, so as always, the Americans will appear as the ones trying to stop it, but really they're the ones that influenced, right, and got the Israeli people to get into the situation there and start the war off. And the Americans, like you see here, right, the Americans solve the problem as they usually do. All right, so they create the problem in ISIS, because we know ISIS is funded by the CIA, and it's been created by the CIA and the American government, and so on and so forth. All right, and in using them so-called Jews, they start shooting the hell out of it. Also the EU and so on and so forth. And as you can see here, man, right, problem fixed. All right, quote unquote. But see, this doesn't represent Syria anymore. Right, that's not going to represent Syria. All right, right. You got it to where, as you just seen in the video there, right, what the geezer said. He said, Russia's got billions worth of dollars of investment within Syria. So you think Putin's just gonna let billions worth of dollars just go down the drain? Like, there you got it, right? Like it says in Isaiah 24th chapter, the earth is gonna reel to and fro. Now that's exactly what's gonna happen, because these two Edomite nations, the Russians and the Americans, are gonna go to war against each other, and Satan's house be divided against himself. It's gonna surely fall, man. So I'll just read the supporting statements, and like I said, real quick, real short, all right, and real simple. It says Israel strikes targets in Syria again. It says media in both countries are reporting that Damascus airport was hit by Israeli airplanes. All right. It says over the course of Syria's 4.5-year-old civil war, Israel has quietly been drawn in at times, and it occasionally treats wounded Syrians in the hospitals, according to reports, occasionally bombs weapon convoys, or retaliates for cross-border fire. On Wednesday, Israel reportedly launched another strike against targets at the near, right, rather more at targets at or near the airport in the Syrian capital of Damascus, but they're not saying what targets. All right, it says which is under the control of, well, they kind of say it there, which is under the control of Syrian President Bashar Assad. So they were attacking Bashar Assad. All right, but we got there is America, Israel, and the EU are going to be attacking Bashar Assad. Now, they might say they're attacking ISIS, but really Putin's attacking ISIS. That's why you see it on the news. The minute Putin went up in there, he was, 200 ISIS targets destroyed, 400 ISIS targets destroyed. You see that on the news all the time. But the Americans, when they were attacking, so-called fighting ISIS, of which they weren't fighting their own assets, all right, it was actually fighting against the Syrian President Bashar Assad, because they want him out there, all right. You never heard no reports about them taking down any targets or anything like that. All right, so the website's there. If you want to check out the article, you can check it out there. And it says Israel warplane struck near Syria airport, all right, which goes into the same thing. So we're in very really very exciting times. But the Lord said He's gonna test His to see who's gonna be worthy of what's gonna come after. And that's going to be a beautiful thing in itself. But as you can see, man, all right, this thing is popping off, man. So without much further ado, I must say double honors to the apostles of GMS, honest you brothers that be pushing this truth and sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom.